it is time to welcome onto the show RJ Ochoa, making 3 R's in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Rock the mic champ and all around nice guy, RJ Ochoa. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I didn't know that it was a business casual day here. I would have dressed up if I had known that to be the case, Rob. I would have vexed. I respect
exactly.
it.
It looks good.
I'm looking at 2 hoodies and an America's team.
And let's stay there, RJ. I feel like, and this isn't TV, so I'll explain to the people. RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, is wearing a shirt that says America's team. And I feel like that shirt is the reason, one of the sole reasons why Tom Brady eyes light up and he refuses to lose to that team. Because I feel like in his crazy mind, that is Tom Brady, because you can't become the GOAT without being a little off. When he was with the Patriots, he felt like they should have been considered that. And y'all kept that moniker even though you were bad. And I think it's the sole reason why he despises you and tries and will die on the field to beat the Cowboys.
Well, yesterday afternoon, NFL media announced the top 5 most viewed regular season games of the year, and 4 of them featured the Cowboys. None of them featured the Buccaneers. And the only one that didn't feature the Cowboys was the Thanksgiving Day game that preceded the Cowboys Thanksgiving Day game. That was literally the most viewed game of the season. I would offer, just to add to your point, Tom Brady grew up a big 49ers fan, big Joe Montana fan. That was his dude. And
good point.
You know, if there was ever a Cowboy killer, it's Joe Montana. I mean, I do put something into that, and I do think that the tables have kind of turned over the course of the last, 25 years, basically Tom Brady's entire career. Cowboys are 0-7 against him. Cowboys are wearing their Navy jerseys. It's a Monday night. Like, the curses are out. You know what I mean? Like, it's everything, all of the karmic energy is working against the Cowboys here. Everybody expects them to lose, not because of anything that has to do with football, but just because that's who
everybody? No.
Well, 3 out of the 4 panelists over on the 4-letter TV said it was going to be Tampa Bay. So I think there's a lot of people that secretly are going to go Tampa because of that Tom Brady thing. But before we go any further, RJ, we've been talking a lot about Mike McCarthy and his potential to be fired. There's all that's been floating around. Graziano says he has all that. It's his job is safe, right?
I mean, I don't know. Person would say it isn't. Now, I understand Dan's report. Dan's report came out yesterday. It was that both Mike McCarthy and Brandon Staley are under some low-key pressure if they don't perform in the playoffs. It should be noted that the jobs that Mike McCarthy and Brandon Staley hold are the ones that Sean Payton covets the most. And Sean Payton is working the PR slot machine right now. Sean Payton's not a dummy. He knows how to play this game. And so, I mean, I think people – I'm sure you guys asked at one point, and we talked about, but like people would say in training camp when you guys are in Oxford, like, well, if they don't make it to the NFC Championship game, is he fired? And I would always say, like, well, it depends on like the context of that. Like, do they lose in the divisional round because they got blanked 50-0? Do they lose off a Brett Maher, field goal that kissed the upright? Like, what what happens that leads to that? And so I think you have to decide that now. And I know Jerry said what he did, but if it's a portion, and I think it's worth talking about, but at the end of the day, and we've talked about all the things they've quote unquote accomplished. They're a playoff team in consecutive years, double-digit wins, all these sorts of things, and people laugh and say like, wow, the bar is so low. When I was growing up, Roger Staubach was winning Super Bowls. The bar is low. Like what? Like welcome to town. Like welcome to who the Cowboys are. Like what do you think this is like a franchise like that is proud and renowned for the last quarter century? So I think if you dismiss that, I think you're being too greedy and too entitled, honestly, thinking that this is an easy sort of thing.
Rob and Mike McCarthy had words about 2 things, and I want to get your thoughts on both. Cowboys slow starts. He disagreed with Rob vehemently and said, Rob, show me the numbers. And the 1-4 on grass fields. He didn't like Rob bringing either of those things up. Are those things, or is that Rob picking on poor Mike McCarthy?
I mean, there's things, right? Like if you're 1-4, you're not 2-3, right? Like you're not 4-1. So like you can lump that up to coincidence.
But is that a thing though? Or is it's more of a thing than the blue jersey, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's technically a factor, right? Like, I mean, you could argue the jersey is a factor. Framber Valdez, the Houston Astros, wanted the blue jerseys because he felt they were lighter, right? Like, so that's a real thing. Like, there's a real reason he wanted to wear those when he pitched. But I mean, I do think that, like, we're at this place, and I'm not like grand philosopher, whatever, but I think we're at this place where it's like, there's got to be a reason. Like, there's got to be a bottom that's going to come out of this team. What is it? Is it the slow starts? Is it because they're going to be on grass? Is it because they're not playing at home? Like, what is going to be the reason why? What is the alley that we're going to run through to dunk on them? We have to define that now, when the reality is, like, okay, cool. Yeah, they have to play on grass. They're not that great. They're going to have to start a game. They're not that great at that. They had to play games without Dak Prescott. They had to play games without Tyron Smith.
Right.
They had to play games without Leighton Vander Esch. Like, they have found a way through all of it. I mean, so, like, it doesn't have to be pretty, and I don't mean to be lame and, like, cliche, but, like, they're winning the games. And so they've earned the benefit of the doubt. And nobody wants to say that out loud because they want to be like, how have they earned it? I've been waiting 25 years. They have earned the benefit of the doubt this season in terms of how they respond to adversity.
Agreed.
Speaking of adversity, has Dak earned the benefit of the doubt?
This is the most volatile question that you can ask
right
now in Cowboys land. I would say so. And I said recently, of his 100%, status this year, I would say 90% has been very good to elite. But the 10% has been terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just like it's been not good or not elite. It has been terrible. And often you don't need 10% to lose a game. You need 1%. You have 1% terribleness. You can lose a game off of that. And, before last week, I think you could kind of explain away most of the things. You could talk about, like, the unfortunate tips or touches or whatever. Last week was really rough. And I do think that people are putting way too much stock into what happened. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't a big deal, but I do think the Cowboys kind of understood the bigger picture at hand.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, the Cowboys have since Dak Prescott returned, they've been one of the highest, actually the highest scoring offense in the NFL. So I don't know what more you expect.
Agreed.
Again, like, you wanted to look prettier, like what? They're literally first in that particular department. I mean, they're scoring more points than anybody else, and last I checked, that generally leads to wins.
So let's go in the woods. What Tampa, Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady have designed this offense to where it's almost impossible to get to him. And the Cowboys' strength for most of the season, up until I feel like the Texans kind of, even though it sounds weird to say that, I feel like the Texans kind of exposed something like, hey, you know what? Just get rid of the ball quick and live with what happens. Due to the fact that that's how this Buccaneers offense is designed as well. And that's been a strength of the Cowboys. How do these two, who wins that battle?
First of all, I think you're right. I think Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll were the was it Jenna and Andor in Rogue One? Like, they laid the trap in what is the Death Star of the Cowboys defense, so to speak.
Wow.
I mean,
You're
but
crazy,
so did Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So did Tom Brady. And, that's his thing, right? Like, independent of what the Cowboys do. And so it sounds stupid, but maybe that's not your game plan, right? Like, you know what? Maybe your game plan isn't like, throw all sorts of pressure at him, right? Because he's very good at mitigating that. So you have to play differently. And Dan Quinn said this week that they tried some different things last week. I mean, it's going to be hard. Like there's no area of this game that I can sit here and be like, they have 100% of the advantage. I know the Bucs are below 500. I know they were crap for most of the year, but it's going to be hard. They're playing the greatest player of all time. But I think what people are like, losing is that, and I recognize it's not like vintage prime peak Tom Brady, but they're playing the greatest player of all time on the road in their, jinxed blue jerseys on grass on a Monday night, and they are favored. So, like, how do you not believe in this team?
Great point. Go ahead, Rob. Great point, RJ.
As we try to get healthy, and we've gotten some good news. Everybody practiced yesterday. We wanted to see practice for the most part. In your mind, more important, Biotish, LVE?
Or Hankins?
I'd rather Biotish.
Okay.
I think it's Biotish, but it's kind of a cheating answer. I mean, because he, his restoration restores a lot of other things, right? Like, because at that point, Connor McGovern slides back out to left guard, Tyler Smith slides out to left tackle. and Jason Peters is your swing tackle. Leighton Vander Esch he plugs and fits one particular hole in one particular opening, but it is still just one. So from a quantitative standpoint, it's Biotish. But Leighton is important. I mean, Leighton has been sorely missed. I would not say he is Sean Lee, but we used to say like, oh man, if Sean Lee could just be healthy. The Cowboys are getting that dude, like that.
Yep.
What that person means to their defense for a playoff run. I mean, it's hard to get here, right? Like you got to crawl through a lot of stuff to get to here right now, and they're about as healthy as you could be, all circumstances considered. And getting Hankins back on top of that, I mean, they have as good a chance as they've ever had. And I know that is a sensitive, triggering thing for a lot of people, but it doesn't mean it isn't true.
Cowboys win if blank.
If they don't turn the ball over, I remain very confident that they'll win. That sounds simple, but I mean, they have the second.
It matters. Yeah, it matters.
They have the second best turnover differential in the NFL, despite all of Dak Prescott's interceptions, right? Like, so like if you think about like what would happen if those were just average, right? Like not insanely bad, right? They would be incredible in that department. And so you can't rely on getting turnovers defensively, but so to speak, you kind of can at this point. You can hope for that. And so if they don't turn the ball over, I mean, you could go a million ways. Like if they're able to run the ball, like that hasn't been too effective. Like I don't think this is like if Micah Parsons has a big moment. Micah Parsons had 2 sacks in the first game against the Buccaneers. The Cowboys lost. I mean, this is going to come down to the offensive superstars, the dudes on the program, Dak and Pollard and Zeke and Feedy and Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz and everybody. It's going to be on them. They're going to have to outscore the greatest player of all time, even though he's not, again, the sort of pinnacle version of himself.
One last question. Where is Dan Quinn coaching next year?
I
think it's the Cowboys.
What, as a head coach or the DC?
He's the DC.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that either Quinn or Kellen are the kind of coordinator du jour the way they've been in the past. Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon of the Eagles have generated a lot of hype. Frank Reich's in the mix, Sean Payton's in the mix. Plus, generally speaking, there are 7 to 8 openings. I mean, we're still kind of waiting on the Rams, but there are only 5 right now. And part of it is, does anybody want any part of the Broncos or of the Colts situations right now? And that's what you have to wait. Dan Quinn is not going to get, in all likelihood, a third opportunity to be a head coach.
Right.
Kellen Moore could fail and seemingly get another opportunity at some point in the future. But Dan Quinn has to be so careful and so measured. And he may know Russell Wilson, but he may know something deeper and darker than even the rest of us after the course of this past year. And so I think he and Kellen are both back, and I think that's a big reason to be excited if you're a Cowboys fan. They probably won't win the Super Bowl. The odds are literally that they probably will not do it, but they might. Like this has to happen to somebody of these 14 teams, and they are one of the somebodies. And so you should take solace in the fact that they are one of the somebodies for the second year in a row. You keep getting back here. You keep taking swings at this thing. If you're one of those teams over and over and over again, eventually the odds, once again, are that fate will smile upon you.
That ain't poverty. He's somebody. His name is RJ Ochoa. He had his Blogging the Boys and is a Rock the Mic champ. Always good to catch up with you, man. Yeah, I think you made a lot of Cowboy fans feel pretty good about themselves.
Great stuff as always, RJ.
Take care.
I love you both. Both of you, drink some water, please.
Got you.
We will hydrate effectively.
Coffee. All right, buddy.